Hello options traders, welcome everyone. Well, you probably didn't need someone to tell you that we had some pretty high volatility moments last week, because despite the nearly 290 point bounce that we got in the Dow on Friday, October 12th of 2018, the Dow was still down over 6% for the week. So very volatile times, but there are still other times when it's not so volatile that we'd like to know where we are, or how volatile can this stock be or index. How much is it likely to lose in a day or a week or a month? And to do that, it's nice to have a visual look at that. And one of the best ways is with the high-low indicator. So let's take a look at this very simple but helpful technical indicator. The high-low indicator, as I mentioned, is very simple calculation. We don't even need an Excel spreadsheet to show you. It's very simply the high trade minus the low trade. And of course, it depends on which time frame you're in. If you're in a day chart, you're looking at the high of the day minus the low of the day. If it's a weekly chart, high for the week minus the low for the week, and so on. And that's all it is. And of course, it is a measure of volatility. We've seen a lot of these before in other technical indicator videos, such as Wilder's average true range, lots of different measures that try to account for volatility by looking at the high and low. This one simply just does it by the high trade minus the low trade. But we can still find some very good insights. So for example, if we're looking at a particular stock or index, just how volatile can this be? What is the average? What are we likely to see? And where are we now? Are we relatively high or relatively low? This can also give you great insights for option strategies. Should I maybe be selling options at this time to grab some of this high volatility? So lots of different things that we can answer by looking at the indicator. So let's go over to the eTrade platform and take a closer look at the high-low indicator. So here's the eTrade platform, and I've got it set to Amazon, so I'll just leave it there. Come up here to Studies, and right here on All Studies, choose that. And right over here is high minus low. There's your indicator. We choose that. Not much in the way of parameters here, simply the color. That's about the only thing you can change. I'm going to leave it at black, choose Save, and then down below is the indicator. So let's go ahead and lift this up a bit so we can see it. So just to show you how it works, it's very simple. It's just taking the high minus the low for that candle. I'm in a daily chart. So let's just zoom in here and find a big candle here somewhere. Let's say we'll take a look at this green one right here. So I'm going to line up the crosshairs and we're going to select the data so we can see it. So if you look up here, you'll see that the high was 1443 and the low was 1351. So that's giving us a difference of 92 or so. So look down below where the crosshair lines up and you'll see right there. And if we come down to that point and line up and look over to the right, there you'll see about 92. So not going to line up exactly, it just depends on where we are. But you can see that's all it's doing. It's just taking the high minus the low and plotting it. So one of the first things I like to do is to, let's zoom back out here for a full year, is to just get a rough idea of just how volatile this stock can be. So let's go back up here and grab this pencil. I'm going to click down into here, and then you can actually click on it, left mouse click, and drag it. And so I'll just kind of move it until I can eyeball it, see where you get about half the data above and half below. So somewhere in here is probably a pretty good average. And then look to the right. And look at that, it's telling you that 40 points a day on Amazon. So even though you might not recall that, especially if you're just tracking close to close, it can be a very volatile stock intraday. What about during the week? Well, let's come up here. Let's change our time frame from daily to weekly right here. And now each candle represents a week. So look at this. If we come down here and take a look at maybe the average somewhere in here, look over here, 100 points in a week, plus or minus. What's the highest it's been, at least over the past year? Over 200 points. So yeah, this has got some serious volatility to it. And it's a good check because a lot of times, especially new traders will get in there and say, oh yeah, Amazon moves 5 or 10 points in a day. So if I sell this naked put that's out of the money by 20 points, I should be pretty safe. And things like that. So it gives you a good perspective of saying just how much volatility and just how much this stock can move up or down in a day or a week or even a year. Let's go back to daily. So that'll give me kind of an indication of what I can expect on a daily basis. What's been maybe not the highest, but what might be a higher period? Well, it's a judgment call, but I might slide my line, let's say up to here. I'm going to capture these peaks, this one over here, and these. So it's certainly not unheard of high, but it's certainly on the higher end. And look over here to the right, telling you about 66 points. So again, it's just a rough estimate. 65, 70 points somewhere there is a high number, but it's not unheard of high. What's the highest it's been for a day over the past year? Well, let's come up here and line up to that top peak, about 140 points. What's the highest been in a month over the past year? Let's go back up to our monthly candles, and right up about here, about 350 points in a month. So it's a good check to make sure you understand just how volatile this stock or index is. We'll come back up here and change it back to daily. And then a final question I like to look at is, where are we now? Well, over here, our current point is right here, about 66 points for the change. And again, yeah, on the high side. Not unheard of, but we are definitely on the high side. Another use that traders use this for is that a lot of times volatility will precede a very big price trend, whether up or down. So if we come back here, we see that we were in these very high volatile times, big downturn, and then we got on this nice big rally. Again, another big volatile period right here, went off on a nice big rally. And during this rally, notice that the daily changes were fairly low. So we can use this indicator as a way to figure out potential turning points. Now here's another thing I like to use it with, is with other overlays or some of our upper studies. So for example, let's go back up to studies. Let's come to all studies, and let's go to Bollinger Bands. And I talked about this as a MOBO band, which is just a Bollinger Band with a 0.8 standard deviation. And I'm going to choose Save. So as I mentioned in that video, as long as the stock is staying inside these bands, we are in MOBO. There's no reason to close or to exit, even though the stock might be pulling back a little bit. The momentum is still there. But notice that when we got up into here and we're riding on the high side of these MOBO bands, if I look down, we were in some fairly high volatile times. And that might be an indicator that we might want to hedge the position. Let's sell some premium, let's roll, or do a combination. Lots of things we can do, but it gives us a good indicator of where we are in terms of volatility. So whether we're in highly volatile times or not, take a look at the HighLow indicator, and it will be a very good gauge to figure out where we are in terms of typical price activity. If you'd like to learn more about the art and science of options trading, please check out the Alpha Trader course and Strategy Lab at optionsatozz.com. Also, please join us on the Facebook trading group, also by the same name, Options A to Z, and you can find a link in the description below.